Morning everyone, it's Kate from the Forward Line. I am back this week to talk all things Sewing Bee. We are on episode 8, so the quarterfinals were last night, is that right? Yes, quarterfinals last night. What an evening it was. I mean, in lots of ways. Was anyone else sharing their time between watching the Sewing Bee and the football? I was, flicking between the two continuously. So it was basically a very exciting evening. Right, so Sewing Bee. This week was Diva week on the Sewing Bee. So the first challenge they had to make was based on the iconic Tina Turner wiggle fringe dress, which is amazing. And I thought, again, quite a tricky task for them all to make. It's quite a simple, like, strap dress with lines and lines of fringing, which all had to sort of line up at the back, invisible slip. We've all been there. We can imagine how hard that was, especially doing it under time pressure. So, pattern for this one, the Simplicity S9297. Slightly different placement of the fringing you can see here, but the shape feels really similar. And this was the only dress that we could find actually with the fringing sort of included as an instruction. So that one is there if you are looking for it. And actually the kind of simple dress version of it without the fringing looked quite similar in terms of the dart placements, etc, etc. So that one would work really well for the first challenge. Second challenge, the kind of upcycling challenge, they had to make some loungewear that a diva would wear using, I think it was 2 or 3 pieces of clothing that were made from animal print, which was I thought quite funny and quite a good challenge. And the last challenge, the made to measure challenge, was the they had to make a costume, a kind of stage costume for a particular star. So it was I thought it was a really fun one actually, and I think I would have been quite stressed doing this myself. So first up, Alex, and now I'm saying this, I can't remember the name of the diva that she was making this for. It was like a country and western singer that I hadn't really heard of. Anyway, that's by the by. So it was a kind of, he was Canadian, so she'd made him a Canadian tuxedo, which is traditionally double denim. So it was a denim sort of kind of cowboy style shirt with a pair of flared trousers. So shirt patterns, I think this one is right because Rachel spotted a Liberty pattern kind of in the background, and there's a Liberty pattern called the Carmague cowboy shirt, which I'm pretty sure was it just from looking at the seam lines of this shirt compared to what she'd made. It's a really lovely pattern. It had crucially this seam, this kind of swooping seam that she'd sewn tassels into, and this pattern has that. So that's what makes me think, and we saw it. So I think this one is actually bang on. It's a great pattern, actually, really lovely. So that was the top. Bottoms was a bit more tricky. I actually found a pattern. It's a Nomi pattern. It's an ME2035. I actually love this set if you haven't seen it before. So it's a pair of slightly flared men's trousers with a kind of little polo shirt, but I thought the flare trousers felt quite similar to the ones that she'd made. Obviously she made it in denim, and there potentially was a little bit more of a flare in there, but you could do this kind of traditional, you know, where you cut up the side seam, add a wedge in if you wanted to, and you could do that again to a straight pair of trousers. But these ones come with a slight flare already, so I thought that would be a good option. Then Elsa, she was making something for is it Celine Dion? No, Shania Twain. And her one was quite interesting. It was kind of like a zipped hooded coat that kind of flared out, and it was in a kind of, it was quite tight, and I think it was in a sort of like PVC. It was quite an interesting kind of look. So the pattern that we found for this is the Simplicity S9713. I thought this one was pretty close actually. So obviously when we started looking, I was looking for dresses and coats because it could have fallen into both categories. Apologies, a cup of tea is very much needed today. but I think it is a coat, and this one felt really similar actually, so I was quite pleased with this find. So if we have a look at it from a couple of angles, I mean, obviously it's a little bit looser, but it flares out in the way that hers did. It's got a hood. This one's obviously shut with poppers, but you could change that and make it in zipped, but it felt quite similar, so that definitely has a kind of nod to it if you were looking for that one. Luke made an incredible outfit for Lady Gaga, and it just was an absolute masterpiece. So there are a lot of components that they'd made, so we kind of looked for the core piece that went underneath. Oh, sorry, I just knocked something. Which was a kind of a bodysuit, and then they'd made kind of like harnesses and stuff to go over the top. It was really clever, and they had this amazing helmet with hair. I mean, it was really great, and you could tell that they'd made lots of stuff like this because it was executed incredibly. So the bodysuit is on Etsy, and it's a company called Treasury Sewing, and it's just called bodysuit pattern, and it just felt absolutely spot on. It had a high neckline, zip up the back, and this was the only kind of pattern I could find that had gave kind of full kind of coverage as a bodysuit. So I thought that was a pretty good option. Then we had Pasha. Pasha was making something for Beyonce. She made this, it was kind of like a bodysuit it was high necked, and then it had really big sleeves, and then she'd made like this kind of quite interesting kind of piece that went over the top of it. So we were looking for the kind of bodysuit. We thought that the Megan Nielsen Rowan bodysuit would be a really good starting point. The cut of it felt very similar. The main difference obviously is these big sleeves. So I was thinking that she obviously hacked it. Whether she hacked it without pattern or not, I was thinking if you did want it with a pattern piece, the Friday Company Adrienne blouse would be a really good hack option because it's a jersey pattern, big sleeves, and obviously you could then use that as a starting point to make them bigger. You can make them as big as you wanted them to be, but that would be a good pattern to kind of pair the two together to make that look. So that was Pasha, and then Susie made something for Lady Gaga, and I thought her outfit was absolutely incredible. It was kind of like an opera coat. It was pink with red detailing, had a big collar. It was really beautiful. I think that she used the Simplicity S8509 as her starting point. She changed it quite a lot, but the kind of silhouette of it felt really similar. And this was kind of the only coat that I could find that felt as close to that in style. And I know that quite a lot of the patterns that she uses are quite obscure ones. So we could definitely be wrong, and she hasn't used any commercial patterns yet. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. So if you think you know what it is, let us know, because I'm intrigued by that one. That was the one that kind of, I was like, what could it be? What could it be? But that would be a good starting point, if nothing else. So that is it for me this week. We'll be back next week. Semi-finals. Oh my God, I can't believe we're kind of coming to the end of it. Yeah, so we'll look forward to seeing what they've got to do next week. Have a lovely rest of your week. Bye.